What is the adult version of finding out that Santa Claus doesn't exist? Story 1. Finding out that reaching retirement is about hitting a financial number and not reaching an age. Story 2. Being a hard worker and good at your job doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be rewarded for it. Story 3. Finding out that your parents are people too, with weaknesses or flaws that you were blind to when you were young. Story 4. When both your parents die. I am in my mid-50s and had my mom pass on Mother's Day 2022. My dad then was living with us from then, and eventually reached in-home hospice status with a sudden stage 4 cancer diagnosis. He died in January of this year, and then I got laid off from my tech job and was unemployed for 10 months. Nothing takes the wonderment and positive outlook from the world than having to empty out your childhood home solo and throw everything you grew up with into a big dumpster and are left to wonder what our lives really mean. Story 5. Realizing. You'll probably never have the aha moment that tells you what you want to do with your life, and you'd better just pick the least depressing choice. Story 6. As a millennial, I was raised to believe that going to college and getting a degree would guarantee me a good future job that would allow me to live comfortably. Story 7. Christmas bonuses almost never exist. Worse fantasy than the Claus. Story 8. When you finish eating your dinner and there is no magical person to wash the dishes and you have to wash them yourself. Story 9. Most of the relationships in the teen dramas you loved would actually be toxic as hell in real life. Story 10. Bachelor's degree is not a coupon redeemable for one full-time job in your field of choice after graduation. Story 11. Finding out that you're getting older, which means getting uglier, less mobile, worse health, etc. You can delay poor health to an extent, but one way or another, it's coming for us all. Story 12. Learning that two people can love each other more than anything in this world and still not be a good fit for a long-term relationship. True and pure love isn't always enough. And Story 13. Finally owning a house, then realizing you now have to go through the effort and expense of maintaining it. It's great, you've got a house for $100K. Now enjoy saving and spending at least half of that to stop it from crumbling, leaking, or falling down over the next decades. Story 14. For me, it was finding out those HGTV shows are all more or less staged. Story 15. Spending time trying to understand why something happened often doesn't lead to answers and can only prolong your healing process. Sometimes closure is moving forward and not ruminating or trying to figure out why. Story 16. Discovering all the shows and movies you loved as a child were crap, and you just enjoyed them because you didn't know any better. Story 17. That everything we were told growing up about working hard equals financial success was a damn lie. Story 18. Recycling is, for the most part, a scam by corporations to move the physical and emotional weight of dealing with the harm their packaging causes off them and onto you. Story 19. Finding out that in the US, it's not really Democrat versus Republican, it's the rich elites versus the rest of us. Story 20. Working hard will get you advancement in the company. In reality, being a hard worker keeps you exactly where you are. Management will keep churning out the good work you do without ever paying you any more than they do. And it makes them look good. Story 21. Discovering that the special recipe for a dish that your parents have always made was just on the back of one of the ingredients packages. Story 22. Bullies don't always get their comeuppance. In fact, sometimes they achieve great things. Even the presidency. Story 23. When you expect your boss to give you a raise for all of your hard work, but instead get a pizza party. Story 24. You never really own a house or property. You rent it from the government for the rest of your life. Story 25. I really thought my fellow Americans valued democracy. I now know it is only about half of us in American democracy could end in my lifetime. Story 26. Learning that people will say or do anything just to sleep with you. Learning that your body is a toy to be relentlessly pursued, played with, then discarded like it's nothing. Wish my dad had told me. Story 27. Finding out that performance ranking is already determined by management before any reviews are written. Story 28. Not only do you have to cook every single meal, but you have to plan them, buy them, clean up after them every day for the rest of your life. Story 29. Learning that loyalty to your job is all bullshit. And when it comes to work, the only thing you should be loyal to is yourself. Story 30. That the American dream doesn't exist. We're just serfs serving our corporate overlords in a new version of the feudal system. Story 31. Everything about your life is dictated by wealth. You can work harder than anyone and still struggle, but people who were born with money can do nothing and succeed. And they will still blame you for not working hard enough. Story 32. That all the shit you're worried other people think about you doesn't exist. Nobody gives a crap about you and what you think and do. Just live your life and don't worry about others. The sooner you realize this, the happier you will be. Story 33. Finding out that once you turn 40, you can no longer read without glasses. And every morning when you get out of bed, something hurts. Oh, and every time you bend your knees, it sounds like a freshly poured bowl of Rice Krispies. Snap, crackle, pop. Story 34. Realizing our politicians aren't stupid. They know exactly what they're doing will cause suffering. Poverty, racism, sexism, and homelessness, etc. aren't bugs in American politics. They're features. Story 35. There's no satisfaction in finding out the reason why someone became an asshole. You just have to accept that they are an asshole and that there's a time to just stop having them in your life and move on. Growing up, I was taught that people who acted mean towards me were probably going through things in their lives or had been raised wrong or just had different beliefs or whatever. But spending my childhood always asking myself if I had done something to them or if they had been having a bad day or whatever. Most of the time, they're just an asshole because they want to be one. And there is no deeper meaning behind it. And the sooner you can come to terms with that and quit associating with them altogether, the happier you'll be. Story 36. That loyalty to a company means absolutely jack. Most of us were raised by parents who worked at one, maybe two, companies for years, and we saw stories of people retiring after 40 years at the same place with a party and gold watch kind of thing. Our company is like a family. Yeah, right. Truth is, if you drop dead tomorrow, companies will post your job listing before your obituary hits the paper. Story 37. Finding out that those with power usually get the power through cruel and malicious actions unseen by the public under the guise of altruism. Story 38. That you never really become a grown-up. I enjoy going to bed on time. I like going to the store early to avoid people. A new cooking utensil also makes my day, so I know I'm already on that level of old. But I always thought that you become an adult and everything is cool and arranged, but in the past years I realized everyone is just trying 24/7 and bullshitting their way through corporate life. It's weird out here. Story 39. Some people will hate you just because you were born. Born gay? Born a Jew? Born with genes that contribute to being ugly, fat, or female? Born with a physical or neurological disability? There's nothing you can do to assuage someone you may never know or will get to know you from hating you just because of who you are and you can't change. Story 40. Finding out terms like carbon neutral are basically just advertising campaigns for huge polluting companies to try and pay off damages while doing nothing for the environment.